The environmental injustice here looms large. One person speaking alone may not be heard, but many people speaking with one voice cannot be ignored. Those are the words of our founder, and that's how we've grown to be the organization that we are today. The environmental injustice here looms large. And it's not just us saying this. This is published reports that we have seen for the last decade or more, identifying at Plant Vogtle specifically many types of environmental justice having to do with health problems, financial setbacks or promises.
This is a 95 to 98 percentile area of cancer rate, so we're the highest level in the country. Right here, so in downtown Augusta, yeah. So South Augusta, it goes down to 85%, and then jumps back up in some areas. But where we're standing right here, right now, is amongst some of the highest cancer rates in the country. You have not only the nuclear impacts, but Savannah River site ran off of a coal plant for many, many years and contaminated the river with mercury, the ground with mercury. So these people it's like a triple whammy for folks living in the community, and then you add pesticides on top of it, so from agriculture. So it is, the cancer rates are very high around the community.
When we looked into the water discharges from the plant, heat is a pollutant under the Clean Water Act. Well, plants 1 and 2 are in violation of the Clean Water Act, and this is all as a matter of record. They're using the river itself, they're using the Savannah River as a cooling device, which is flatly prohibited by the rules and regulations and the law. But in that same investigation, we found that there was contamination with tritium all the way down to Savannah, the city of Savannah, nearly 100 miles. But it's an idea that should be abandoned entirely. And it's partly because of some of the things that we have discovered over the last 10 years of fighting them, is that there are seismic gaps, there are base mat insufficiencies with the concrete, there are hydrogen igniter problems. These are all technical terms, but these are real engineering weaknesses that were uncovered through the licensing process. Our interventions and the interventions of others turned up substantial weaknesses. These weaknesses were identified by a nuclear power plant operator, a nuclear engineer with over 3 decades of experience, who lost his faith in nuclear power and came to the other side because the Nuclear Regulatory Commission and the Atomic Safety Licensing Board have not done a good job. And those weaknesses are built into the plant you see right behind me.
We're working with Blue Ridge, starting with Lou. We were able to even take samples of the soil and be able to tell what was in the ground as we work together. When does it stop? Does our grandchildren, children stop? No. I think it's a money situation that can only come to the owners of the factory, not those who have lost land, not those who have children who seek to understand and learn how to benefit from learning, and how the injustice came about when you take things from individuals throughout a whole state and offer them zero back, only to tell them you need to keep supporting us, which means you can't support yourself. But with Lou and I, when we started out with working with each other, trying to make sure that children had an opportunity, that they would not have bills when they get an education or when they did not have an education, because they have to have a lifestyle, and a lifestyle that did not depend on someone having you on their monthly bills that you're going to pay them for something they had no idea was going to happen.
This is an historic county, I would say Burke County, historic county. The current residents, and a good percentage of the current residents, are the relatives of former slaves. This particular county had a large number of plantations in the 1800s, the 1700s, etc. In fact, the land area, the land basically was so rich for farming that you had plantation owners from other states move to Burke County in order to set up their agricultural businesses here.
Well, the way I got involved was in the early 70s. We had some land. My granddad had land down here, and they wanted the land. They came and got it through the court system. And when they got through the court system, and they took control of it. And the family, eminent domain, whoever they got it. But the family wasn't really satisfied with that. And that been our issue with it, because it was unjust the way they done it. And certain people got a certain amount of money for land, and the more the African American people got less money. Well, he bought the property in 1919, the first property that Georgia Power have now is across the creek. We call it across the creek. And it was 300 plus acres. And it was sold through the court system.
300 acres?
300 plus.
And you got absolutely nothing?
Well, they give us $450 an acre, per acre. It should be worth more than that, because some people got much more than that, $1,000 per acre. But we only got $450. And that's what we raised out there in that area.
Family land is a way to build wealth. It's the key for survival. It's the key to freedom in this country, to have property to pass down to your children. That was the goal of Mr. Howard's ancestors, is buying 2 parcels of land in order to allow them to live free and independently. That was taken away. In addition to the land itself, was they robbed their future. And they did it in a way which is unconscionable, unfair, sneaky, and underhanded. And it should not be allowed to stand.
Well, we realize that progress have to take place, but it's not easy when you've struggled all your life to acquire something and then it's taken away from you. So in that aspect, it's something that sometimes a lot of us don't agree with, but it depends, I guess, on what it's used for. We can accept it better if it's used for something that's going to benefit the neighborhood or the people in the neighborhood, I would put it that way. So that's basically the take that I have on that. We can't stop progress, but we can be conscious of our little part that we play in making things right for our communities and our citizens. Right now, we have just met with a company that's coming into South Richmond, and we are putting some things in place that will keep the neighborhood safe. Alarms and how much toxin should be in the air and that type of thing. We are working with companies, and so far we have been instrumental in getting these companies to work with us, and we gave them some tips of what they need to put in place to make sure that the citizens are safe, and so far they have agreed to do those things. So that's what we are trying to do. We're trying to work with the companies that we can't stop from coming in, and there's companies that we can stop that we think is not good for the community. We're trying to get them to move someplace else.
There's funding. A lot of funding and revenue does come from this plant. Burke County receives a substantial amount of money, and it has been poured into our school system, which we have a great school system, partially because of that, okay? We get a lot of revenue from this plant.
Well, the timeline is moving pretty quickly with the Biden administration reaching out to us and us being a part of the anchor institution for this very topic, bringing nuclear companies to Augusta. We're looking at within the next 3 to 5 years actually strengthening those pathways in our schools, but it's actually a K-12 concept. You want to start as soon as kids enter the school system, teaching them about ways to conserve energy. So we're excited about this path, and yes, we'll probably target the high schools initially, but it's going to be a K-12 initiative.
Augusta's been home for my entire life. I wear a dual hat in that it is my job, as I consider the sole economic developer driver as mayor, to create higher paying jobs for this community that are safe, that are beneficial to this community and beneficial to the environment. Before we recruit any company, organization, or plant, it is my job as leader to make sure that they adhere to all of the rules and regulations that are set forth by the state of Georgia as well as the federal EPA. We take that a step further by making sure that we engage our communities in which they operate. We like to have great, true corporate partners that believe in the value add of having direct lines of communications with the communities as well as with this government.
Behind this beautiful landscape are nuclear power plants currently being constructed. The first time in over 3 decades. Plant Vogtle 3 and 4 in Waynesboro, Georgia. Power plants are known to cause cardiovascular disease, cancer, cataracts, and more health problems. But for the folks who live here, these power plants are providing jobs and much needed housing in a poverty-ridden area.
Well, the funding back to the people who live in a 10-mile radius was probably started just like 4 or 5 years ago when Shell Bluff Community Inc. was created. The community liaison personnel came to us with this idea of doing some rehabilitation, not remodeling, to some of the homes in the 10-mile radius first, to just give the people a better place to live in because of the economic conditions of this county. This is as I stated earlier, this is a black area.
Grateful, 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 and I feel good. I'm just thankful for all the ones that came out to help do the demolition. And I just want to say thank you to all of them, and that it was a job well done.
We've had meetings out there at Bradford Church full of people, and they went through the whole process of explaining some of the waste that can leak into the water table, and people was telling out what the cancer rate is out there. My feeling is people need to get more involved. Need to know what's going on in the community, not through the radio or television, but they need to get out to community meetings and hear really what's going on in the community so they can have some knowledge of what they can do to protect themselves. But if you depend on the television set, the radio, and word of mouth, you're at loss. You really don't know what's going on.
One person speaking alone may not be heard, but many people speaking with one voice cannot be ignored. Those are the words of our founder, and that's how we've grown to be the organization that we are today, in serving the needs of people that have been somehow impacted by pollution, whether it's a smokestack or waste dump or what have you.